Hello, everyone. We are going to go over drawing. Drawing is one of my favorite things to do. You've probably drawn in one way or another. You might think that you're pretty bad at it, but I bet you're wrong. I teach drawing here at SMC, so maybe I'll have you in the classroom one day. I can hope. This is a drawing that you might have seen before. This is by Leonardo da Vinci, arguably one of the world's most famous artists who did the Mona Lisa. And this is called the Vitruvian Man. And Leonardo da Vinci studied so many different things. He studied architecture and physiology and engineering and astrology and all the different possible sciences you can possibly think of. Here he's showing that the symmetry of the human body can be placed in a circle or in a square. You might know that your measurements as a human, if you extend your arms out like this guy is, from fingertip to fingertip, is usually close to the same as your height. I think for me, my wingspan is a little bit longer, but not by much. So we regard Da Vinci as one of the great masters. The term Renaissance man comes after Da Vinci because he was so prolifically talented in so many different fields. So he's really looking at understanding the world through visual studies and recording those visual studies via drawing. Here you can see a lot of skeletal drawings. He sat in on a lot of autopsies and actually would study the cadavers, these dead bodies, to really understand the human skeleton, our musculature, how everything fits onto each other, why our body moves the way it does so fluently most of the time. And he was very, very enamored with the natural world. His handwriting is really interesting as well because he wrote backwards. So we write from left to right. He wrote from right to left and backwards. So you could really only read it if he held it up in a mirror. Some people say that he did this so that other people wouldn't be able to like decipher his notes. Some other people think that it's just the way that his brain worked. Obviously, an incredibly brilliant mind. I wouldn't be surprised if that's just the way that his brain worked. So, medical science, anatomy, physiology, engineering, physics, astronomy as well. This next slide is one of the inventions that he created of many things. He invented helicopters and submarines, and not all of them were successful, but he did think about all these things. So, this would have been a weapon to be used in war. It would have been commissioned by the ruler of the time, or possibly one of the really wealthy families that was involved in war. It's said that he didn't really like doing these kinds of things because he was such a humanist, but he was so incredibly talented that he was pulled in to help create all kinds of things. Fast forward a couple hundred years, and this is Pablo Picasso. So Picasso was active in the early 1900s. Picasso, as we've seen with your Cubist assignment that you all did, he was really looking at the world through different lenses. And his cubism, seeing things in different facets and the abstraction there, was really innovative for the time. This looks like it was probably a charcoal or a graphite drawing. But like you guys saw when we looked at the previous Cubist paintings from Picasso, he's really expanding the way that artists are thinking about the human form, especially, and bringing it into kind of a really different kind of crazy perspective. So drawing doesn't always have to be representational, and moving into the abstract is sometimes more interesting than staying within this kind of like photorealistic world. We looked at Guernica in one of our previous slides. This is the preliminary drawing for Guernica. Not artists don't always just start painting on a canvas. Guernica was a very large painting, and so he did plan it out pretty carefully. This is a different artist. He practiced in the 1990s and into the 2000s. His name is Mark Lombardi. His work is considered neo-conceptual. And so this is a very kind of rigid drawing in the sense that it's very technical. It looks like it could be a plan for some kind of, I don't even know. It looks like it could be planets. It looks like it could be moving people or parts. But what he was actually doing is mapping conspiracy theories. which is super interesting. I'm sure you've seen that image of, the guy that's all crazy and he has the map behind him with the red string that goes everywhere. So he's basically doing that, but within his drawings. And I think that they're actually quite beautiful. They're a lot more controlled than other types of drawings that we've seen and will see. But that he's putting ideas down on paper to try and figure them out is really interesting. And that's what drawing is about a lot of times is putting ideas down and just trying to fuss them out as you work through them. This is one of my favorite artists. His name is Sol LeWitt. He did wall drawings, and you can see the scale here. These were meant to be huge, huge drawings, and they're very conceptual in the sense that they're not showing things that are representational, which we talked about. He really wants to just have the viewer experience the space and think about the space that they're in. So this piece would have been specific to the location that it was in. And these red lines you can see are radiating from very specific points using primary colors here. And then this is a very large wall drawing that he did. This is actually graphite. And all of these, probably about 1 foot square individual squares, would have been drawn by hand, but not by the artist himself. So he would have written down directions and had other people execute the drawing with very, very specific rules that they had to follow. These are fun. I don't know if you have participated in a collaborative drawing like this before. These are called exquisite corpse drawings. And these were done in the early to mid 1900s with a group of artists that would get together regularly. So an exquisite corpse drawing, you take a piece of paper and you fold it into thirds or quarters, but long way. And every artist takes a turn, but they can only see their drawing and the connecting lines between the next section. And nobody knows what the other person drew until the very end when they unfold it. And so these drawings are very surreal, abstract. They're kind of representational, but also not. Randomosity, chance, and innovation are the things that we're looking at here. So this, you can see they're kind of dancing on tennis rackets, a very strange leaf head. This one is, I'm not sure. That's the beauty of these exquisite corpse drawings, is they can get really silly and funny. And depending on the people that are collaborating, if they're in the same kind of mindset, they can be quite amusing. This one seems to have a little bit more commentary with it. This is an artist named Paul Noble, and he is known for creating these incredibly large graphite drawings. And this is not a real place that he's drawing. This is a invented town. So he invented this entire town in his mind and drew them quite largely. And it's incredibly detailed. And the perspective on them is great for not having had any reference to work off of. So he's just combining all these things in his mind. And it's really interesting because it's almost like he's drawing his own like Sims worlds because he is at once being able to create the entire world that is being brought into existence on paper, but he also has the opportunity to completely destroy it. So these are surreal in a way that this doesn't exist. It also is not a place that really could exist in reality. So this is surreal both in the visual sense and the conceptual sense. There are a couple more by him here. Really interesting. It looks like another planet. This is an example of performance art. So performance art is just what it sounds like, something that is acted out in front of other people. Sometimes it's recorded and sometimes it's not. This is a work by Trisha Brown. It's called It's a Draw. And this is really about experimentation. She talked a lot about memory and like muscle memory and movement and making decisions while she's drawing. Is she going to draw with her hands or is she just going to drag it underneath her wrist or between your toes? You can see here. So this would have been the drawing that resulted from those images. Is it beautiful? I don't know. You can decide. Completely abstract. But here, the drawing that is the result of the performance is more of like a record that it happened at all. But the focus is typically on the actual action that was being performed. Sort of been another one you can imagine spinning around on your heel like that. This one always creeps people out a little bit. An artist named Rebecca Horn. If this is interesting to you, I suggest that you Google her and look at her work because it's really interesting. So this would have been a piece of performance art as well. So she has this kind of mask and there's pencils attached to it, and she would just like slide her face back and forth across walls and continue making these marks. This is something voluntary. It kind of looks like a torture device, right? But she created this, and this is expressing her agency, and then the experience that you can imagine having wearing that mask is really interesting. These are a series of drawings by an artist named Jimmy Ray, and they are, as you can see, Roombas. So this is using other materials and other objects to make your drawings for you. So what this artist did is he built kind of like a box of sorts and attached markers and paint markers to these Roombas and let them go. So time-based art, you can imagine watching this would be kind of fun. And then there's again a record of the drawing that can be kept. And these are huge. You can see the scale there. But it's really interesting to see the marks that they make. We've all seen a Roomba go around, but have you ever seen a drawing by a Roomba? Here's work by an artist named Gary Simmons, excuse me. He did a lot of work based around social issues, race issues. This is chalk on chalkboard and obviously like smudged and starting to be erased. So eraser and impermanence are important here. Very much a text-based artist. And the scale. So these are very, very large wall drawings as well. So this would have been a ship. It's kind of like a ghost ship, you can see. But you can imagine that he would make these drawings and then go and partially erase them. A little more macabre here. But you can really see the artist's hand in the way that he created and erased these. Um, this is really cool. I would have loved to have been part of this. This is called Measuring the Universe. And so this was an interactive piece that was at the MoMA in New York. And people got to go in and basically just measure their height and write their name down, maybe their birthday. But the everybody got to do it and you want to participate. And so it's not just one person interacting with this that makes the drawing, it's that hundreds and hundreds of people came in, left these marks across the wall where you can see the kind of median height of people. And then if there was children or someone that was exceptionally tall, really cool. Really cool way to get people talking and feel like they're part of art making. This is a much more contemporary artist. Her name is Aurel Schmidt. These are mostly graphite and colored pencil drawings. This is just a small snippet of one of her pieces. I love the detail. I love the color. The content is kind of like weird and creepy, but also really interesting. Here, self-portrait with various addictions and fears of aging. So you can see all of those cigarette butts and things that are not very good for you. But this is also abstract in a way. So it's representational because we recognize some of the objects, but that is not at all what a person looks like. This is her work as well. This would have been a life-size drawing, really beautiful and super intricate. These next three slides that I'm going to show you are stills from a stop motion video that William Kentridge made in the late 90s. I really encourage you to go back onto our Moodle page and watch the videos because they're very impressive. We're all familiar with stop motion. Today it's so streamlined, and whether it be claymation or drawing or digital, it's come so far. But this is kind of the first one of the exploring this idea of video and drawing and how do you manipulate the same drawing to become something that moves and changes over time. And then these are just some stills as well from him. So yeah, please take a couple minutes and check out the video of William Kentridge. I think there's a Da Vinci one up there as well. Um, they're worth your watch. So thank you, and I will see you in the next video.